Let's talk about your inner child. I know this is a hot topic in the spiritual community, but your inner child is what brings forward that egoic mind. Your egoic mind tends to sabotage and tell you you're wrong and you can't have this and you can't do that. And what happens is we build in frustration from childhood all the way up into adulthood, and we don't know how to let these little pieces go. And we so badly want to let them go, but we feel like we're stuck in this back and forth ping pong of what's not working in our life just to have a small glimpse of what can work in our life. Your inner child from 0 to 7 is basically your catalyst of understanding how your life will unfold. You basically mimic a pattern from 0 to 7, and it'll show up in a different way, but same concept over and over again until you understand that you don't need that pattern anymore. And sometimes the hardest part is letting go of the pattern. We so badly want to hold on to it, thinking that it's right. I'm not allowed to let go, that it's yours to keep, or you have to hold it. These are all words that keep us stuck in those patterns. To you, in that childhood, it almost feels like it's yours and it's tangible and you have to keep it because nobody else is going to want it. At the same time, you don't want it. So you're looking to throw it away. And every time you throw it away, it comes back harder and harder. And for a lot of people, they just don't understand what the inner child or egoic mind is trying to tell you. Your ego is not trying to fight against you. For one, it could be trying to protect you, save you, shelter you from having more of the same thing as a child. If we change the perception of just a little bit and look at it as though it's highlighting something that we're still holding on to as a trauma or whatever from your childhood, that we just need to kind of look at it and go, okay, do I truly need this anymore? It's just trying to highlight something. If you're still sitting in that 2-year-old self who's left alone in a bedroom, you're looking for somewhere to fit and belong. You don't want to be alone anymore. And when you are alone, you fight up against it. So here's just a little bit of an exercise I'd love to share with you that came up with my soul school students. And that is, if you can just imagine yourself in like a sumo wrestler suit that you kind of go to a fair and you battle in. When you're in that suit, everything is covered up by something other than yourself, right? You've got this costume on the outside. And all you have is your sensory of your vision. So if I take away your vision, you're left with yourself inside something that you can't escape, right? After about 5 minutes or so, you're going to start to panic. You're going to be like, well, I want out. I have no sensory now. I want out. This doesn't feel comfortable anymore. And then what happens is the longer you stay in there without anything, you battle yourself. You battle your internal self all the time, moving and shifting that energy. And what happens is it starts to build. I call it the pressure cooker. So emotions come up, thoughts come up, all of the lies start to come up. And what happens is they start to build and compress and decompress inside of us so that it's more and more and more and more. When we compress something so hard, it has to let go. And so what happens is when you're in that suit, you will start to battle out against yourself. And that's the reaction that happens when we're stuck in our own head with our thoughts and our actions that are going on. How do I make this better? How do I do better? Well, this person's wrong and this person did this to me. All this will start to come to a head. The biggest thing is realizing that you don't need to be in that costume. And the moment you step out of that suit, it's like this relief happens, right? That's the pressure cooker exploding. Okay, good, I'm out now. But if you understand what happened internally with that exercise, you will understand what it's trying to show you externally. And the more we become consciously aware of what's showing up and not giving it attention or emotions or reactions, eventually that just starts to move away. And then we're not attaching into how it needs to be or should be. We're just starting to let these things go so that we're starting to understand our awakened awareness in front of us. The more we start to understand what's the reflection coming back to us, the less it starts to affect us. So your inner child is literally just regurgitating stuff from your childhood to show you, hey, you're still holding on to this. Hey, you're still holding on to this pattern. And this can be any configuration for you that you need to see it in this now moment. But what I want you to understand is if you become the observer and allow your ego to walk beside you, the reaction and compression of how we hold and store emotions stops happening. So another exercise you can actually try is just talking to your ego. And you can just close your eyes, put your ego in front of you. Whatever your ego looks like to you is perfect. No judgment, just let it be there. and ask your ego what it's trying to tell you. Because if that ego is your child in temper tantrum, then it's always going da 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 in your ear, and it's never being quiet. So allowing yourself to understand what it's trying to tell you will calm that reaction down from the ego into you, because it's already you. You'll never fully get rid of your ego. That's not what this journey is about. It's about understanding that you are the creator of everything. So in order to calm the ego, we need to ask the ego why it's in temper tantrum. So you can ask your ego, why are you in temper tantrum? What do you need? Maybe it just needs a hug, right? What I have found, even with my own students, when I do classes with this, is that the moment you can get the ego to walk beside you instead of like constantly at you, the more peaceful your life becomes. So you can address with your ego as many times as you need to. What do you need? How can I help? And just allow yourself to walk through that step by step with your ego. Your ego will give you lots of insight. If you can't tap into the ego, here's something else you can do. Observe what's showing up. Everything is going to show up in the same patterns over and over again, whether it's lack of money, can't find a job, not feeling good enough, not feeling worthy, feeling lazy, whatever that is, those are still things from your childhood. They're showing up to show you where your childhood was out of alignment and you're still holding on to that little bit of resistance or temper tantrum of why it showed up in the first place. So you can take all of these tips and just use them in the moment to walk through certain parts of your life. And asking yourself why it's showing up is a great insight. Another understanding as well is we bottle up emotions. And those emotions that we bottle up have to come out at some point. The frustration you feel of a job that's going wrong, or feeling like you don't fit in at work or in your family, these are bottling up emotions. And at some point, those emotions have to come to a head because they're not a true alignment. And here's an understanding that may resonate with you. When it's from truth, you didn't hear it from anybody else. When it's BS or a belief system, it's coming in regurgitated from somebody else that you're holding as your own truth. I know that's hard to understand for some people, but if you're listening to other people talk, the media, newspapers, some people's clips on social media, if you're listening to those things and you're reading those things, you're digesting the parts of that for yourself that you believe to be true. If you believe it to be true, it's a lie. If you believe that to be true, it's a lie, especially if it's negative and especially if you're taking on. And here's just a little example. You need to wear a hat in the winter or else you're going to catch a cold. That's somebody else's negative belief system that you've taken on, so you'll always wear a hat because you don't want to catch a cold. Same with a jacket. If you don't wear a jacket, you're going to catch the death of you. So most of us will wear a jacket if you've been told that. Don't touch the stove, it's hot. Don't run, you'll fall. Be careful. All these things are a belief system that you've heard from somewhere else. And as long as you keep going in that belief system, you're just going to keep attaching one of those nuggets into yourself over and over again. And you won't be able to cycle out of that until you prove to yourself that it's not true. So the truth comes from within you. The truth is in you already. It's you navigating to pull the pieces apart of the belief system that are no longer true to find your true alignment. Not everyone's going to align with your truth, and that's not what this journey is about. Everybody has their own truths that they're going to live by. Eventually, it all equals out into the same thing, which is the Christ consciousness, right? Your consciousness as the creator. Until then, stay in yourself, stay in your alignment, stay in your awareness. It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks, believes, or does. It's how you show up to be. It's how you show up to speak. It's how you show up to think. It's not about targeting somebody else and this is wrong and that's wrong. That's not what it's about. It's about understanding who you are. You are different than everybody else. There is no one else on this planet that is you. And I'm grateful for that because your uniqueness is what this world needs. And we need to start to nurture and grow from those things. But it's your truth, not somebody else's. So I challenge you to bring this forward for yourself and start to unlock and uncover what your truth is for you. Be the observer. Watch where you're trying to put things out there. Watch where you're trying to react to things. It doesn't really need your attention. It's just showing you where you're out of alignment. So I have a a session that I do. It's a master creation session, and this session helps us to uncover those little things, those little strands that are going on inside of you where your beliefs are off or your inner child is in a temper tantrum. So if you feel like you're super stuck and this spiral is not ending, feel free to hook me up and do a session, infinitysourcecode.com. And we can dive into these and we can start to unlock why. And we can allow you to feel that expansion instead of compression. You can allow yourself to feel the joy instead of the depression. So all of these things will help you to understand where you're at in your own life and where you're at in your belief system. Everything comes from within you. And it's time for us to start shifting that awareness back to understanding the consciousness of what we're here to do. It is about us, but it's also about something greater. And I'm ready for you to step into that something greater. I hope you have an amazing day.